Welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, joined by Riley Fessler. How you doing, Riley?
I'm better.
Yeah, people are worried about you, Riley.
I
People are
know.
worried because our loyal listeners, I know what they've been writing and sending in.
Yeah.
They're worried that you are, you're being pushed out of your apartment by rats. And it's any updates on that? Because I know they're concerned.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's advice and concerns. I am trying to move, so we'll see how that goes. But
People say you should get a dog.
yeah, I've heard that I should get a dog, which I can't have in my unit, so that one won't work.
Well, you're not supposed to have rats in your unit either. Maybe you
Yeah.
them.
I'll say it's an emotional support rat terrier.
We'll just say you get rid of the rats, I'll get rid of the dog.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we're looking at solutions. So things are looking up.
Glad to hear that. Glad, we love all of you folks out there in DSR land, and when there's a problem, you guys step up.
Yeah.
And I'm delighted, and I'm sure you will soon all be sending rat traps directly to Riley.
I should say people did ask for videos of the pandas because I promised I would do that, and I tried over the weekend, but the line was so long that I wasn't able to go because I had an apartment tour right after the zoo. So I will try and get panda videos another time. I promise.
Yeah, well, we'll try and let's get them, and then we can integrate them into the YouTube of this. For the people who aren't watching this on YouTube, you're missing out because today I'm wearing a peach-colored T-shirt. And, of course, there's Minna Stein. How are you doing, Minna?
I'm imagining Riley being carried on a bed of rats from his apartment now to his new apartment.
By the rats.
Yeah, like on a bed, a sea of rats scurrying with Riley on top.
And if they'll move my furniture for cheap, then
yeah. Exactly,
I'll take it.
Yeah. They'll move you in. Make sure you get there safely.
Speaking of rats, what's the latest news?
Wow, what a transition! I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah,
I had to recalibrate my brain.
I'm a professional.
That's why David's the pro.
Yeah, I'm a pro.
That's why they call him David One Take Rothkopf.
Take notes. Yeah.
U.S. President Donald Trump plans to speak with Russian President Putin to discuss ending the war in Ukraine following positive talks between the U.S. and Russian officials in Moscow. Trump is seeking Putin's support for a 30-day ceasefire proposal that Ukraine has already accepted, though negotiations remain complex, involving discussions about territorial concessions and control over power plants. Russia insists on ironclad guarantees, including Ukraine's neutrality and exclusion from NATO, while Ukraine maintains that its sovereignty is non-negotiable. Meanwhile, Western allies, including Britain and France, are preparing potential peacekeeping forces, but Russia has ruled out such deployments until the war ends.
Well, they get to choose, don't they? Trump and Putin say they're going to talk about big-time diplomacy, but this is actually Trump's 8-week job evaluation with Putin, because he has to call in periodically, and Putin has to tell him how well he's doing and what he needs to change. I have to say, Trump is going to get the best job evaluation from Vlad that he has ever gotten. Because, if you look at what he's done to the country, undermining NATO, attacking our allies, undermining the world trading system, getting out of international institutions like the WHO and the Paris Accords, backing, far right groups that Russians like, not pulling the rug out from Ukraine, putting pressure on Ukraine to end this war on Russian terms, using Russian talking points, getting rid of the part of the Justice Department that went after Russian oligarchs, getting rid of the Department of Homeland Security that protected us from foreign intervention in our elections, getting rid of over this weekend, even the funding for an effort that was taking place at Yale to track down the children that the Russians had kidnapped from Ukraine. That's a war crime, folk. You talk about what happened on October 7th. Russia has kidnapped tens of thousands of Ukrainian children, brought them into Russia, said they couldn't speak Ukrainian anymore, gave them to families. They stole these kids. And Yale had a program on that. And what did this administration deem proper? get rid of it. Other things that, have served Russian interests include, weakening our military by, undermining key portions of our force. Or look at the front page of the New York Times today, pulling funding from the people who manage our nuclear weapons. What could be better from a Russian perspective than for America's nuclear readiness to fall? So I got a feeling Trump's going to have a great call tomorrow. Vlad's going to be super, uh, 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 supportive of what he's doing. He'll probably get 2 gold stars. And then on the side, they'll talk about Ukraine, and Trump will blindly accept every single Russian talking point. He will then come out and say, I accept all of, I had a tough negotiation, and here's where I've gotten Russia. They want no peace case being forced in Ukraine. They want Ukraine not to be in NATO. They want all this land to be handed over to Russia. They'd like a couple of Ukrainian power plants to go over to them. It's only fair. And because the Russians are being so great, we'd like them back in the G8. We want them to send their diplomats back to the United States. We want to start ending Russian sanctions. We want to work with the Russians hand in hand. I'm just telling you, it's Monday. You only have to wait to Tuesday to see how wrong I am. So let's not jot that all down and see what happens. Minute.
National Security Advisor Mike Waltz confirmed that U.S. airstrikes this weekend targeted and killed multiple Houthi leaders in a significant response to the group's attack on global commerce. Waltz emphasized that these strikes were different from previous ones under the Biden administration by specifically targeting Houthi leadership and holding Iran accountable for its support of the group. The airstrikes, ordered by President Trump, aim to disrupt Houthi operations in the Red Sea and reopen critical sea lanes affected by the group's actions.
Yeah, okay. Look, the Houthis are bad. They're doing bad things. We should bring them to heel via the means that are available to us, ideally in some approach that doesn't result in the killing of civilians, of course. But the main reason for this attack was not anything that was just specified there by Minna. The main reason for the attack was so that Donald Trump could be filmed watching the attack, so that he would look presidential, in control, mean and nasty, able to exert force, and that would distract from the pictures of the fat slob on the golf course, which of course are undermining to the sense of the dynamic presidency that Trump is trying to portray. So this was performative. It will not make a huge difference in any outcome in the Middle East. Riley.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is seeking to remove Ronen Bar, the director of Israel's Shin Bet intelligence agency, citing a lack of trust, but critics argue the move threatens the agency's independence. The attempt follows Shin Bet investigations into Netanyahu aides and a report criticizing the government's handling of security threats, intensifying tensions between Netanyahu and Israel's security establishment. The Attorney General has challenged the legality of Barr's dismissal, and former Shin Bet officials warned that the move could politicize the agency. This follows Netanyahu's removal of other security leaders and raises concerns that loyalty to him is being prioritized over national security.
I love these things. We do this every day. And whenever Riley concludes something with and raises concerns, you guys out there can listen and say, that means this is happening. Okay, it's not a concern. Netanyahu's doing a Trump. Trump's doing a Netanyahu. Trump and Netanyahu are doing an Orban. They're doing a Putin. There is a movement of right-wing, ethno-nationalist, anti-globalist, anti-democratic governments out there that are a club. And we're now in that club, and they don't like democracy, and they get rid of democratic institutions, and they value loyalty to the leader over loyalty to the country. They enable corruption. They do bad things and then, provide explanations for them that are, purely fabrications designed to enable them to do even more bad things. And Putin and Netanyahu and Orban and Trump and Modi and Milei in Argentina and formerly Bolsonaro and Brazil and others are in this club. It's a new global alliance, and for the United States, it's the one we signed on to instead of NATO and our other alliances, which were designed to promote peace, thwart aggression, and promote democracy. We used to be for those things. We're not for those things anymore. And so I'm sure in the White House, when Netanyahu did all this, they said, right on, just the way to handle it. Riley?
It's actually Minna's turn now.
Oh, it's Minna's turn. I'm so sorry, Minna. No
worries.
personal offense should be taken.
I'll strike it from the record.
Okay.
A federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to respond to allegations that it intentionally violated a court order halting the deportation of Dr. Rasha Alawieh, a Lebanese citizen with an H-1B visa, who was detained last week upon arriving in Boston. Despite a Friday court order mandating 48 hours notice before her deportation, Alawieh was placed on a flight to Paris where she was detained, leading to claims of willful disobedience of the court's directive. The case has sparked calls for the immediate readmission of Alawieh, who was working as a doctor at Brown University, and highlights concerns about the administration's treatment of individuals with legal immigration status.
Yeah, look, this is important on several counts. And of course, it goes hand in hand with the case that also took place over this weekend of the deportation of a bunch of people who are allegedly associated with the Tren de Aragua gang from Venezuela, who were sent off to El Salvador. And once again, in that case, a judge said, no, you can't do this. There was no due process involved. And the Trump administration, in that case, said, oh, sorry, the plane had taken off. It was over international waters. We couldn't bring it back. And then on top of that, when the prisoners landed in El Salvador, sent to an El Salvadoran prison, and the president of El Salvador sent out over social media video of these prisoners bound in shaved heads going into this hellhole of a prison. People like Marco Rubio and Elon Musk cheered it on social media, despite the court order against it. The White House said, A, the judge has no authority over this because this is the president who is enabled to handle anything in national security, and courts can't stop him. And B, they said also that the order came too late. But in all of these cases, what they're doing is testing the limits of presidential power and trying to expand Trump's powers to make him more like a king. Simultaneously, they're totally circumventing any due process. These people who are being thrown, we don't know who they are. They have not had their day in court. And in the United States, that's the way our system works, even if you're being deported. You get a day in court, you have certain rights, and those rights are being abrogated. So not only is there a power play to make Trump a king, there is also a gutting of fundamental rights, the right of due process in the United States, and expect this to continue. I would add one other point, though. One of the reasons they're doing this kind of high-profile behavior, in addition to the two that I just mentioned, is that they're not able to round up a lot of people. And they want it to look like they're being super aggressive on immigration, but they don't have the people to do the big roundups they talked about. They don't have the ability to go into cities and do those roundups. They don't know where the people are. So instead of stories about, tens of thousands of people being rounded up and thrown into prisons, which they frankly would like to have, you're getting stories of high-profile cases where Trump and the administration are seeking to look tough, just like they seek to look tough with regard to the Houthi attacks. Why? Because this is a strong man government. What he's trying to do is to portray strength and analogize that with the way that he wields presidential powers. But make no mistake, this is not a US presidency like you've ever seen. This is a strongman government seeking to become a despotic government, seeking to make Trump a king. Now do I go to you, Riley? Now will you drop the man?
I close this out with the White House is in advanced negotiations with Oracle to take over TikTok's U.S. operations, but concerns remain about the extent of Chinese.
So by that you mean is that Oracle will take them out, not that White House will take them over.
Yes, Oracle will take over.
Okay.
But concerns remain about the extent of Chinese parent company ByteDance's involvement. The deal, led by Vice President J.D. Vance, which I guess this is what he's been working on the whole time.
Well, he hasn't been doing much else.
Yeah.
Although he does some lovely work with the eyeliner.
Yeah. He's been working on his makeup routine and taking over TikTok.
No, his eyes really pop. And I think soon he goes for a smoky eye. And it could be a real good look for him.
That would be good. Trump, who previously sought to ban TikTok, has shifted his stance and has opened Oracle founder Larry Ellison purchasing the platform, while China has firmly opposed any forced sale. With an April 5th deadline looming, the deal's success depends not only on U.S. negotiations, but also on whether the Chinese government allows ByteDance to proceed with a sale or licensing agreement.
I would just point out a couple of things here. And I hate to harp on this, but it goes back to the last story. The Congress of the United States passed a law. The law said that TikTok should be divested by January. Trump came in and said, I'm not going to do that. Nobody in the Congress said, hey, wait a minute, there's a law. You have to follow the law. He totally ignored the law. Now what Trump wants to do is to sell this TikTok asset to a Trump supporter. Oh my God, who could ever have predicted that in addition to this kind of power play, there would be corruption underlying this. The Chinese won't like it, but somehow they're going to work out some kind of accommodation. TikTok's going to keep going. And that's because you can't have an app with 135 million Americans using it, including most of the Americans under the age of 40, plus me, because I like those dog videos and this unusual animal friends videos. I also like cars, and there's a lot of car videos. Anyway, the TikTok users will not be placated if they shut it down, and Trump knows that, and he's playing to that group, which is smart. But see, here's the other thing. It's illegal and it's corrupt. But illegal and corrupt seem to be par for the course in virtually everything else that we're doing here. Anyway, maybe there'll be some more illegal and corrupt things to talk about tomorrow. Or maybe Riley will get panda videos and you'll all get to see panda videos. Or maybe we'll get to hear about Trump and Putin, although tomorrow's show will be right before that. So maybe it'll be the next day that we'll hear about Trump and Putin. But there's a lot of stuff coming this week. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of drama. If you want to get sort of some of this fleshed out, don't hesitate to go to my Substack, the one I write called Need to Know at Substack. I wrote a couple over the weekend. You should subscribe there. But even if you don't subscribe to a paid subscriber, if you just do a free subscription, this will complement what you're getting here from us. And listen to everything else we've got coming this week, because we got the whole roster of things coming for you. Until then, have a good day, Rat Boy. And same to you, Minna. And we'll be back again. And I say Rat Boy with love and respect. I just want you to know that. There's nothing derogatory in that nickname, which everyone calls you now.
Everybody's saying it. And I feel the love through the screen, David.
Anyway, everybody, there'll be more on that too tomorrow, rest assured. Until then, bye-bye.